Hello, YouTube. We are back with more legacy footage here. The event we're covering for these next few videos are the most recent Legacy 1K that was hosted by Face to Face Games in Toronto. First match we have here is going to be Elliot on Mono Black Midrange on the player 1 side and Mono Blue Painter piloted by Hudi on player 2 side. So in the recent, I guess, what we would consider recent in the legacy metagame, with the printing of Orcish Bowmaster, Hudi, known to be a 8 cast specialist, has kind of pivoted towards more of the painter side of things. But instead of going with the Rakdos painter, he's converted his 8 cast list to mono blue painter. Let's take a look at opening hands. So we're going to be looking at Elliot's hand. There's an opposition agent, Grief Orcish Bowmaster, Reanimates. Alrighty, so it looks like Elliot is going to take a mulligan here. And I think Hudi is going to be keeping. Hudi just double checking the amount of cards in his hand because last time we had a larger event like this, there was like a little bit of a mishap. So always good to double check everything just to make sure everything's on the up and up and the green side of things. So Elliot is going to go to 6 cards. Very nice of Hudi to zoom in. All right, Elliot looking at Swamp, Sudden Edict, Shieldred's Edicts, looking like he's pitching a Beseech the Mirror. The card, he also has an Orcish Bowmaster, and starting off with the Marsh Flats. The last card in his hand is a newer card. I believe it's called Exsanguinator Cavalry. I think a lot of it's been popping up a lot in Japanese lists, but it is a 3 mana 2/3 with Menace and Lifelink, and whenever it deals damage, you get a +1/+1 counter and a blood token. I'll put it up on the screen. So Hudi's starting off with a Seed of the Synod into Grindstone, and then cracking the bauble, sees a Shieldred's Edict in Elliot's hand. Gonna pass the turn, gonna draw during Elliot's upkeep. Elliot top decks Shieldred the Apocalypse. Going to play a Swamp for turn. I think we're just gonna pass. Nothing to Edict. No other. He could just hold it up for a Bowmaster. Most likely going to be the end of turn play on Hudi's end step. Hudi plays a Haywire Might. I think he's holding up a Metallic Rebuke for some random kind of tempo play. Or any, like, he's not looking for any disruption or looking to use it against disruption from Elliot. We know Hudi has a Metallic Rebuke and a Clown card in his hand. So Elliot going to try to cast his Bowmaster. Gonna see if it resolves. It does not. So Hudi gonna tap out completely. So Metallic Rebuke is a 3 mana instant, counter target spell unless the mana or the controller of this spell pays 3 mana. And it does have improvise. So instead of paying 3 mana outright, you can use your artifacts to tap for the generic mana. Which you see Hudi tap the Grindstone and the Haywire Might to help pay for it. So almost like a 1 mana counter spell. Pretty good. Looks like Elliot drew a Daughty Voidwalker for the turn. Going to Shieldred's Edict the Haywire Might. Haywire Might dies, so Hudi gets to gain 2 life. Weird course of action. Not much that Elliot wants to protect against. I wonder why he didn't just Daughty Voidwalker there. Hudi gonna play Lotus Petal into Painter's Servant. Painter's Servant most likely just gonna call blue. I don't think there's any Hydroblasts in the main for Hudi's list. Elliot gonna top deck Swamp and then immediately fire off a Sudden Edict to get rid of the Painter's Servant. Hudi gonna draw for turn. It's a Kappa Cannoneer. Down comes Clown Car, X equals 2. So he gets to roll X dice, and I believe for every odd counter, he gets a +1/+1 counter, and for every even counter, or for even dice roll, he gets... Oh, sorry, I reversed it. Every odd die he rolls, or odd die result, he gets a 1/1 clown token, and then for every even he rolls, he gets a +1/+1 counter on the clown car. So he uses it to just build up the amount of artifacts that he has so that he can cast this Thought Monitor for cheaper because it has affinity for artifacts. So he cracks the Lotus Petal to cast the Thought Monitor, draws 2 cards, passes to Elliot. I think he drew an opposition agent for turn? Or is that an... No. He drew a second Dothy Voidwalker, sorry. No opposition agents in hand. So I got the second Dothy Voidwalker mixed up there. I guess it was good timing on the Sudden Edict because now Hudi has just 3 creatures, so getting rid of the Haywire Might with the Shieldred's Edict helped the painter help Ellie get rid of the painter with the Sudden Edict. Hudi plays another Lotus Petal for turn. I think we're gonna see a Kappa Cannon here with Improvise come down. It enters the battlefield, so he gets to trigger his own ability. So whenever an artifact comes or enters the battlefield under his control, he gets a +1/+1 counter, and Kappa Cannoneer is unblockable for the turn. So we're gonna see this throughout the kind of course of the event. I thought I would try using the Carbon Life app, like the life tracking app today, or during the event. I probably won't use it again. It was really causing a lot of minor inconveniences for both players or for multiple players. It wasn't just this round, so we're gonna see it kind of bother people throughout the event. But yeah, I always heard good things about it. After this experience, I would not use it. All right, so Elliot slams down a Shieldred after cracking a Marsh Flats for a basic Swamp. Normally, this would be really good against 8 cast. However, with the adaptation of Hudi going to Painter, he doesn't have any Thought casts in his deck, I believe. I think he just has the Thought Monitors. And he only has... I don't think he's playing the full 4. All right, Hudi's going to draw for turn. It is a Urza's Bauble. Going to lose 2 life from the Shieldred. Going to play the Urza's Bauble and trigger the Kappa Cannoneer, making it a 6/6 unblockable until end of turn. Sorry, it's a 6/6, but it has unblockable until end of turn. I think there's another Clown card in Hudi's hand. So Hudi coming in for 8 damage. Kappa Cannoneer cannot be blocked, and Thought Monitor has flying, so Shieldred kind of just sitting there. So Elliot will go from 15 down to 7. Hudi has a backup Force of Will. Not sure if he has an extra blue card in hand. Elliot gonna draw for turn, gain 2 life, go up to 9. He has top decked a Palantir of Orthonk, which is a very interesting decision. In this Mono Black, I think I'm gonna call it Mono Black Midrange. It's not fully geared for scam because he has a lot of the mid-range pieces. Here's what we were talking about before: Exsanguinator Cavalry. So just again, 3 mana, 2/3 Menace, Lifelink, and whenever a knight you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature and create a blood token. So I think it is the only knight in the deck, so it only cares about itself. So who are you gonna draw for turn? Gonna lose 2 life from the Shieldred, go down to 12. Here is another Clown car for 2, X equals 2. So it's gonna enter the battlefield to trigger the Kappa Cannoneer. Who are you gonna roll? 1 odd, 1 even, so he gets a +1/+1 counter on the Clown car, and then makes 1 more servo token. So that was a total of 2 extra artifacts into the battlefield. So Kappa Cannoneer gets +2 damage, and that is enough to close out game 1. So Mono Blue Painter can also play the beatdown plan. It is not strictly combo. If you guys are interested in each of these players' deck lists, either post in the comments below, or message me on Discord, or use any of these social media links that are in the description box below. Alrighty, we are here with game 2 for round 1 of the face-to-face 1K Legacy event. Elliot is going to be on the play, going to immediately pitch it. Hudi showing a Shadow Spear from what we can see. Looks like there's also an Odawara. There's a lot of glare, so I can't really tell what else is in his hand. But, for sure, Z's, there's an Odawara and a Shadow Spear. Let us take a look at Elliot's 6. Ancient Tomb, Troll of Khazad-dûm, Grief, Opposition Agent, Swamp, Marsh Flats, and Chalice of the Void. Ooh, the Chalice of the Void is going to be really good on 0. He could also call it on 1, but I don't think there's as many 1-drops in the painter or the blue painter list as there are in Rakdos Painter. Because Rakdos Painter also heavily relies on welder effects. Okay, so Elliot pitching a swamp to the bottom to the mulligan, just because he has Marsh Flats and Troll of Khazad-dûm and Ancient Tomb. So gonna he chooses to pitch the Troll of Khazad-dûm to the Grief. Gonna take a look at Hudi's hand. So Otawara, Grindstone, Kappa Cannoneer, Mishra's Bauble, Mox Opal, and Shadow Spear. So I think probably best to take either the Kappa Cannoneer or the Grindstone. I would probably opt to pick the Grindstone. Looks like Elliot arrives at the same conclusion. There's a Chalice of the Void. Is he putting it on 0 or 1? He's tapped the Ancient Tomb and paid 2 life. I think he's reconsidering here. Yeah, so Chalice of the Void on 0. So he kept the Marsh Flats into... Oh, it was not an opposition agent. I think it's another Exsanguinator Cavalry. So Hudi is going to start with Island into Shadow Spear. Elliot grabs a swamp off the top. Going to crack the Marsh Flats for a swamp. Hudi draws Urza's Bauble for his turn. Sorry, during the previous turn, not now. But down comes an Exsanguinator Cavalry. This is a pretty nice clock because it kind of grows itself. Hudi drawing Seed of the Synod for the turn and then playing it. Looks like he's just gonna pass back. Going to draw for turn on Elliot's side. Gonna play a Swamp for the turn. Going to swing in with the Exsanguinator Cavalry. That will trigger the Exsanguinator, and he will get a +1/+1 counter and create a Blood token. And it does have lifelink, so it gets to gain 2 life as well. We're gonna draw. It is another Kappa Cannoneer. I think he's just gonna play Otawara and then pass the turn. Now his hand is filling up with uncastable stuff. Go to flash in a Bowmaster. Okay, so Bowmaster gonna ping Hudi for 1. Gonna make a 1/1 Orc army. There's a large board presence from Elliot now. Elliot gonna draw for turn. It is an Ancient Tomb. Going to swing in for 5. Go to gain 3 life. Go to 22. Exsanguinator Cavalry will trigger again, making it a 4/5, and then generating another Blood token. Elliot gonna crack the Blood token immediately. What does he discard? He discards the Ancient Tomb that we know of and draws a Reanimate. Going to reanimate the Grief. Yep, gonna take a look at Hudi's hand. So Hudi now has Otawara, 2 Kappa Cannoneers, Urza's Bauble, Mox Opal, and Mishra's Bauble. Gotta take a Kappa Cannoneer. So if Elliot can find another reanimate spell, taking this Kappa Cannoneer could be quite good, because every turn he's generating a Blood token. Hudi gonna draw for turn. Looks like it is a castable. And nope, he's just gonna pick it up. So Elliot evens the score 1-1. And it looks like Elliot has cut all of his opposition agents out of the deck. Which kind of makes sense. Not as much tutoring in the mono blue version as there is Rakdos for Painter. It looks like Elliot is going to be making no changes. Happy with the 60, and same with Hudi. Looks like he is happy with his 60 as well. Alright, so starting game 3. Hudi has lost game 2, so he is now on the play. It looks like there's a Haywire Mite, an Urza's Bauble, a Shadow Spear. It's hard to tell the rest of Hudi's hand. There is a Metallic Rebuke. I think that's an... did I say there's an Urza Bubble already? I think I did. Anyway, Elliot's hand is Marsh Flats, Double Reanimate, Chalice of the Void, Dothy Voidwalker, or Borg. And then there's another card. There's a Lotus Petal from Hudi, an Urza's Bauble, and a turn 1 Emery. So that was like a neat little trick. Lotus Petal and Urza's Bauble count for affinity for artifacts, so they decrease Emery's cost down to 1 blue, and he can still sacrifice the Lotus Petal to generate that 1 blue mana. So he's going to crack the Bauble, draw during Elliot's turn. He gets to see a Dothy Voidwalker in Elliot's hand. Elliot's going to draw for turn, and he draws a Court of Ambition. That is 4 mana. When it enters the battle, it's a 4 mana enchantment. Enters the battlefield, you gain Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, opponent can. So each opponent can either lose 3 life or discard a card from their hand. If you have Monarch, I believe it does like double it. They either have to discard 2 cards or lose 6 life. Pretty sure that's what the Monarch's ability is. Hudi, it looks like Elliot is opting to reanimate something from Hudi's graveyard. Looks like he's taking a Sign Master Thopterist. Not really sure why you want that. He's not really going to be attacking with the Emery. It's a 1/4, but he does get to generate a Thopter, so this is... if this is his plan to start attacking, pretty low impact. There's an Urza Saga off the top for Hudi. Hudi gonna use it to cast a Shadow Spear. Is he gonna use Emery to cast something? He's not. Oh, because there's a Chalice of the Void. He can... anything he casts out of his graveyard will be countered. Alright, so Elliot has a Sheoldred's Edict. He's contemplating using on the Emery. And he does. Emery gets sacrificed. And then going in for 2 damage with the Sign and the Thopter. You're going to draw a Kappa Cannoneer for the turn. Plays an Ancient Tomb. So Hudi actually, and even in the face of the Chalice of the Void, is looking really good here. Elliot draws a Sheoldred off the top, but no lands in his hand. So the Sheoldred and the Court of Ambition are stuck there. However, Hudi can now start generating construct tokens. Here's a Dothy Voidwalker from Elliot. Elliot gonna active or Kraken for 2. Before blocks, he's gonna generate a construct and block the Psy. And it is a 2/2, so it will just block the 1 damage. We're gonna draw for turn, and most likely you're just gonna make another construct token. Just kind of develop the board a little bit. Alright, and then the Urza Saga sacrifices itself, and because there's an Dothy Voidwalker, it gets exiled with a Void counter on it. So Hudi going for the Mox Opal. He's kind of light on mana. We know that he has a Metallic Rebuke in his hand. I think he just wants a way to cast it. Because he can only attack with one of the constructs anyways. Looks like he drew a Grindstone for the turn. There's a Grindstone, Haywire Might, 2 Kappa Cannoneers, and a Dismember. So Hudi gonna attack with the 4/4 construct. Elliot gonna take 4, go down to 12. There's a Beseech the Mirror off the top for Elliot. So tons of 4-drops in Elliot's hand, but no way to cast them. So it's Beseech, Sheoldred, Court of Ambition, Exsanguinator, Cavalry, and a Reanimate. So doesn't even have the 3rd mana for the Cavalry. Hudi in a fantastic position here. He can just go ahead and equip the Shadow Spear and start gaining his life back, and Elliot is in no position to deal with these constructs in any way. I think firing off the Sheoldred's Edict on the Emery was a little bit hasty. Because even though she has the ability to kind of grind out games, the only artifacts in his graveyard at the time were 0-drops, and you have them covered by the Chalice of the Void. So the Shieldred's Edict getting rid of one of these constructs would actually be a huge deal. But, you know, I might have been in the same position. I don't know. I didn't know that I was not going to be casting any of my other spells. So another thing is he couldn't use the Daughty Voidwalker to play the Urza Saga. If he does, he can play the Exsanguinator Cavalry, and he forces Hudi into a situation where he makes Hudi want to like think. Does he makes Hudi need to make the decision on whether or not Hudi wants to keep attacking or if he wants to just hold up blockers to deal with the knight. So kind of, you know, delays for one turn. Looks like he is contemplating using it to make a land drop here. The main reason is like Elliot is not outracing these constructs with the Daughty Voidwalker, especially if Hudi opts to equip the Shadow Spear onto the construct. Looks like he is going to use the Daughty Voidwalker's ability to play the Urza Saga, and down comes the Cavalry. There's a Metallic Rebuke. All right, so now Elliot has lost his pressure and is kind of sitting with nothing. If Elliot can top deck a land, then the Shieldred can deal with one of the constructs. He could even use the Beseech the Mirror to sack the Thopter and find like a really good answer. I'm not sure what answer would deal with the double constructs. Maybe just getting an Edict would be good enough. Hudi gonna use 2 life from the Ancient Tomb to equip the Shadow Spear. Going to also cast a Haywire Might. Haywire Might can deal with the Chalice of the Void if needed, but Hudi's in such a dominant position, might not be needed. Elliot debating on whether or not he wants to block here. The constructs are what, 2, 4, 6. So one is a 6/6, one is a 7/7 with trample lifelink. Looks like he's going to take the 7. Wait, did I miscount? There's 2 constructs. Mox Opal, Shadow Spear, Haywire Might, Seed of the Synod. And then Shadow Spear gives +1/+1. I think this might be a miscalculation on both players' parts. In either case, Elliot draws a Daughty Voidwalker, not looking good. If Elliot opts to make a construct, it is only going to be a 3/3. So he would need to block he would need to use the 3/3 to block the 7/7 construct, and then the Thopter would need to block the 6/6. It is not looking good for Elliot in this this board state though. If Hudi does have like more, if he has 2 or more 0 drops, he does not. So he has a Grindstone and a Dismember. So Hudi can easily just dismember the Thopter token and then cast a Grindstone, and that would be more than enough. He actually just doesn't even need to use the Dismember. He doesn't even need to cast Grindstone, honestly. Because even if Elliot casts this Daughty Voidwalker, it can't block because it has Shadow. So it can only block and it can only be blocked by other creatures with Shadow. So it looks like Hudi is going to take round 1 and win over Elliot 2-1. It was just a very like unfortunate series of draws for not getting land drops on Elliot's side. Like his hand is so gummed up with 4 drops, and he was stuck on 2 mana for the longest time, and he had to sacrifice one of his pressure tools or tempo tools to kind of keep up with mana. Yeah, there is the concession from Elliot. So Hudi is going to take the match. Alright guys, stay tuned for the next round. I will have it up as soon as possible. Till next time.